This video is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I don't think it's time to fire the manager. I think that's ludicrous. I don't think it's time to fire the general manager, which I can't believe we're having this conversation. Look, and a lot of folks, including myself, were disappointed that the Braves didn't do more at the trade deadline. I was on here telling you that I thought they had to get a starting pitcher, which a lot of you didn't think so. And here we are, and our lack of depth is showing, right? We're seeing that firsthand now. I still believe that was the intention at the deadline, was to land at least one starting pitcher. Until Alex Anthopoulos looks at me dead in the face and says, that's not what we were doing, that's what I'm going to think. Look, I remember a lot of folks didn't want a starting pitcher, and now that Reynaldo's out, now that, Fried's been hurt since then too, our lack of depth is even more evident. So why didn't we get one, right? That's what everybody's saying. It's all about the lackluster trade deadline. That's the problem. I don't think so, because I think AA probably did everything he could within reason to bring more to the table here, right? AA's never been one to sit idly by and just let things happen, right? You mean to tell me the same guy that made all the moves back in 2021 that resulted in a World Series championship, that same general manager just sat and said, okay, well, we'll just get Jorge Soler back, and then waited a whole second day of the deadline and didn't do anything? I doubt it. The problem was, in my opinion, is that the asking price was going to be too high. There wasn't that many needle movers available at the deadline. A lot of folks wanted Garrett Crochet. That didn't happen. You had really the top two, maybe three, were Yusei Kikuchi, which brought back a ton of backlash to the Astros GM, Dana Brown. They had to give up a ton for him. Eric Fetty, which I still think was doable, but the Cardinals snagged him up. And other than that, Jack Flaherty, who the Dodgers got, there just wasn't that many that I would have said, yep, that's our guy. And frankly, if we were to get a good starting pitcher and a good bat, our bullpen's been okay, right? It's been fine. I don't think that's what the weakness was. I definitely think it was starting pitching, and I definitely think it was outfield bat. A lot of folks have criticized the Soler move. It's not exactly what I thought would have been ideal, but I understood it because, frankly, look at our offense. We lost 10-0 yesterday. We haven't put up runs a lot this year. So I think once Soler gets comfortable and on his feet, he'll be fine. We'll see how that move ages. But, look, in terms of why didn't we get any starting pitching at the deadline, think about this, right? If you are trading with the Braves at this year's trade deadline, and you're looking across the aisle and you have a middle-of-the-road, back-end rotation guy, we'll just call it Jack Flaherty, and you have to choose between the Dodgers and the Braves are telling you, okay, we'll give you this and this, but you're looking at the Braves and you're smelling blood because, well, Reynaldo Lopez is hurt, Max Fried is hurt, Spencer Strider's hurt. Yeah, they're kind of desperate. I'm going to see if I can get some more out of this deal. Probably more so than what Alex Anthopoulos intended to do. And, you can't really blame him there. And if it was too much, it was too much. You can't give up next year for this year. And again, I'm not saying that the Braves are punting this year. I don't think that at all. I think they're going to count on everybody getting healthy. So was it a perfect trade deadline? We've said it before. We've said it again. No, I would have wanted more. But they don't all work out that way. 2021, I think it's fair to say that was a miracle on ice, the fact that happened.
Are you ready to save big on a new Chevrolet?
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox, discounted up to $6,500 off. The powerful Chevy Silverados are up to $13,750 off. And the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
In terms of what this season was meant to be, that's a GM's job, right, is to get you prepared for the season. I want to talk about this for a second because I've seen a lot of folks talk about, well, the GM didn't do his job this year. This is what the opening day roster was, right? Which in turn, this is what the intended roster was meant to be for the year. I want to take a look at this. If it loads, we'll see. 4 pitchers. You would have had Max Fried, Spencer Strider, Chris Sale, Charlie Morton, and Reynaldo Lopez. That would have been your rotation. Your depth would be Bryce Elder, Dylan Dodd, Spencer Schwellenbach, and I would even say Grant Holmes in that mix since he's pitching tomorrow. Your bullpen would have been pretty much as advertised as it already is now. We haven't seen a ton of injuries there, but you also would have had Tyler Matzik, which if he's healthy, I think we all know that's a huge boost to the pen. And another left-handed option. Infielders, Ozzie's hurt, right? And that's a big one. Luis Guillorme, he's gone now, but that's beside the point. Catcher, Sean Murphy's been out. So that's just how much depth we've missed. And, of course, the big one, here's your outfielders. This is what we were intended to have in the outfield. Ronald Acuña, reigning MVP. Michael Harris and Jared Kelenic being your everyday outfielders, with Duvall and Forrest Wall either platooning or being on the bench with Duvall and Kelenic possibly. And then, of course, Marcell Ozuna at DH. That's what was intended. How many of those guys are we missing? There's like 6 to 7 that we are currently missing right now. So in terms of the way this has shaken out, hindsight's 2020, right? It's easy to point at what's happened this year and go, well, AA didn't have a crystal ball out seeing what could happen. Of course not. But at the end of the day, the rotation at the beginning of the season was being circled as potentially one of the best in baseball, right? Now, Charlie Morton's start today aside, there's no doubt that on paper at the beginning of the year, this could have been one of the best rotations of baseball. Think about how good Chris Sale has been. At least before yesterday's start, he was leading the Cy Young Award candidacy for the National League. That would have been your number 3 guy behind Strider and Fried. So things would have looked drastically different had, of course, Strider not gotten hurt, Fried not been hurt lately. But you add all that up, it's a cumulative effect. There is no dodging it at a certain point, right? You can hide 1 or 2 injuries, but when you have 6, 7, 8, things are going to start showing themselves. And again, any other team, you give me any other team, no team's going to be as competitive or more competitive than what the Braves have been in 2024 with all of what they've had to deal with. And I will stand on that hill. So again, if there's anybody to blame, right, it's got to be the offense, right? Because let's just look at it. The basics. After all, in 2023, the team average was 276. In 24, it's 239. That's a 37-point drop. In 2023, they had a 344 on base percentage. In 2024, they got a 303 on base percentage. Good for a 41-point drop. 501 slug in 23. 406 slug this year. That's almost a whole 100 points shy of last year. They had 307 homers. If you do the math, they should have 214 by now as a team. They have 140. So that's 74 less than what they should have compared to last year. So you can look at what all they're down. You can look at, all the stats and say, well, this team, it's not doing what it did last year. And you can poke the stick at it, but there's reasons. And I think the 3 main ones are Ronald Acuña, Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, the biggest one being Acuña.
Are you ready to save big on a new GMC?
At Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika, you can own one of the best-selling vehicles in the USA. The GMC Sierra pickup is discounted up to $14,500 off. The roomy and comfortable GMC Terrains are up to $8,250 off. And the GMC Acadias with 3 spacious rows and seating for 7, discounted up to $8,000 off. At Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika,
Get ready to smile.
If your starting pitching was better, you could have circumvented a lot of these problems. The offense is down, right? Do you just decide to fire your hitting coach who led you to so much success in 23? Of course not. Again, if you didn't have these injuries, just in the rotation alone, if you had Max Fried for the entire year and he was healthy, if you had Spencer Strider, if you had Reynaldo Lopez right now, your bullpen would have to cover less innings. We've seen that play out over this week. Your lineup would have to get less runs, which we've seen. And not to mention the guys in the lineup, right? Things would just be better. It's just more natural if everybody's here. And what gets me is you have these folks who acknowledge the problem. They see that, oh yeah, well, they got like 10 injuries throughout the year with substantial time. And then they go, yeah, but they should be able to just deal with that. Like these folks aren't human. I mean, I don't understand what the reaction is, but I just don't understand it. I think it's any right-minded person is going to look at what's going on this year. They're going to say, okay, your MVP, reigning MVP, got injured, taken out for the whole season in the first couple months of the season. Your best Cy Young candidate, Spencer Strider, at least going into the season, got hurt in his second or third start. Okay. Reynaldo Lopez gets hurt shortly after the All-Star break. Max Fried gets hurt shortly after the All-Star break. Michael Harris is out for a month. Ozzie Albies breaks his wrist. He's going to be out for 2 months. You know, and a logical person adds all that up and goes, yeah, you know, I see, yeah, the team isn't performing like they did last year, but I can understand why. But the folks that acknowledge all these injuries and then proceed to say, well, yeah, they have all these injuries, but it's Snit's fault. It's Alex Anthopoulos' fault. It's Kevin Seitzer's fault. Those people drive me insane. This video has been presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC and Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.